Were you saying that you don't have clothes on?
No.
You said I don't have clothes on.
My image is, oh my goodness, I hit snooze 3 times. I'm running late. Fox and Friends about to be on it, and I forgot to get dressed.
So you're thinking for the people actually watching out in TV land.
My image is always people in their homes. I don't just look at the crew.
And you imagine them naked.
Yeah.
Every day.
I imagine them scrambling to get ready, right?
I like the haircut.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
It'll eventually grow back.
It looks good.
No,
All of them.
I'm just trying to look a little bit more mature.
Well, it worked. You look great.
Thanks.
Indeed. And listen, we got a big program today. We are just 13 days away from the election, and the hot topic on the campaign trail today, the rising Obamacare premiums.
Donald Trump is vowing to repeal and replace Obamacare on day one. Hillary Clinton saying she will, quote, tackle the problems without saying who will pay up.
And we have team coverage right now. You want proof? Watch this. Bring out your Mike Emanuel card. We have him. He's a senior political correspondent. He's following the Clinton campaign. At least we asked him to. And we begin, though, with somebody else. His name is John Roberts. He's also got a great title. I forgot it. Here is John.
Brian, good morning to you. And good morning to you, too, Ainsley and Steve. We're out in front of the old post office on Pennsylvania Avenue here in Washington, D.C. It's Donald Trump's latest hotel project, and he likes to say it's an example, a metaphor, for what he would do if he was elected president. He finished it a year ahead of schedule and under budget. It's its grand opening today. Yesterday on a swing through Florida, and he's been there for 3 days, taking on the looming fiasco that Obamacare is becoming, now that the Obama administration has acknowledged that people who are enrolled in Obamacare could be facing double-digit increases in their premiums. Donald Trump says, as bad as the administration says it's going to be, don't believe them for a moment, because he claims it'll be much worse. Listen to what he said in Tallahassee.
And everybody's going to be going up like that. They gave a number of 25% average. They know that's not true. They wanted to try and get out of, get in front. They know that's not true. It's much more. You're going to have 60, 70, 80, 90% increases in Obamacare. We're going to repeal it, and we're going to replace it, and we're going to get you great, great health care at a fraction of the cost.
And Donald Trump said over the weekend in his speech in Gettysburg, his contract with the American voter, that he would begin that process the day that he steps into the Oval Office. Trump also taking on the latest WikiLeaks revelations that emails suggest that Barack Obama knew that Hillary Clinton was using a private server and knew about it long before he says he became aware. Here's Trump in Sanford, Florida yesterday.
Cheryl Mills, Clinton's chief of staff, the State Department, replied, quote, listen to this, we need to clean this up. He has the emails from her. They do not say state.gov. They don't say it. Mills was saying Obama. He had to know that Hillary was using an illegal server.
And some evidence that Donald Trump's swing through Florida may be having a bit of an effect. Look at this latest Bloomberg poll. In a 4-way race, Donald Trump now leads Hillary Clinton 45-43. In a 2-way race, it's 46-45. Today, he's heading to Charlotte, North Carolina, and Kinston, which is east of Raleigh, after he opens the old post office. And Brian, you were calling for things to come up on the screen. We could do that, too. Here's my title. Please emblazon that in your brain.
Okay.
Fox News.
Never forget it.
Pop it in. Okay, there it is. Fox News.
Thank you. You've called me the national senior correspondent. You've called me Joe. You've called me Mike.
Right.
Are you getting enough sleep, Brian?
Of course I don't get enough sleep. You know what it's like to do this morning show.
Are you drinking again? A margarita before bed?
Let's not
There was never John.
Maybe we're
record.
celebrating Hillary's birthday,
Right.
okay?
Absolutely. There's never been a gap in my drinking. I've never slowed down. But you are the senior national correspondent if you're listening on radio. John, I apologize.
No problem, Brian.
There you go.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Sean.
That poll's incredible. Down in Florida, now he's up 45, and what she got, 43?
We have seen so many swings. Listen,
Yeah.
folks,
It's close.
it's not over till it's over. Meanwhile, Mike Emanuel joins us from the Palm Beach area. He's in Lake Worth today. Good morning to you, Michael.
Steve Ainsley, Brian, good morning to you. The news premiums on Obamacare for mid-level health plans would jump on average 25%, has put Hillary Clinton on defense in the final days of this campaign. Take a look at this map. The states that are dark colored, Arizona, Oklahoma, Tennessee, and Minnesota, individual rates on Obamacare are expected to jump more than 50%. Illinois and West Virginia are in the next category, Obamacare jumping 40 to 49%. Clinton has called for fixing what is broken with the health care law and keeping what is working, but the Democratic nominee isn't saying who will pay for fixing it.
We're going to really tackle that. We're going to get co-pays and premiums and deductibles down. We're going to tackle prescription drug costs. And we can do that without ripping away the insurance that people now have.
This will be day 2 of Hillary Clinton's swing through Florida, making stops here in the Palm Beach area, also in the Tampa area, the critical Interstate 4 corridor. 29 electoral votes up for grabs in the Sunshine State, and so both the Clinton and Trump campaigns are investing heavily in terms of time and energy trying to win here. With Obamacare rates jumping, it'll be interesting to see. They're jumping also here in Florida, so we'll see if she has more answers for folks here on this serious pocketbook issue. Ainsley, Steve, Brian.
All right, Mike Emanuel, live in Lake Worth. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We just heard John Roberts talk a little bit about how this WikiLeaks thing has revealed perhaps the President of the United States lying on television when he told Bill Plant this about Hillary's private server.
When did you first learn that Hillary Clinton used an email system outside the U.S. government for official business while she was Secretary of State?
The same time everybody else learned it through news reports.
Well, that couldn't. Now it doesn't look like that possibly could have been the truth. It looks like also he told Steve Croft the same exact thing about the email situation.
That was in 2015. Well, now in the latest WikiLeaks revelation, we are learning that Cheryl Mills, the attorney that worked for Hillary Clinton, she sent an email to John Podesta, who is running her campaign, and she says in this email,
right after hearing that, we need to clean this up. He has emails from her. They do not say state.gov.
Right. Now, here's where, the president may have been caught in a lie because, he's got his devices and it shows who the emails are from. And they were not from Hillary Clinton's her State Department email. They were from something else. But he and she apparently exchanged 18 different email through her private server. So it seems that he would have known that it was a private setup. And the President of the United States used a pseudonym, not his name, to conceal his identity. So why on earth would he do that? Yeah. What do you think? Did he know that the email operation was at risk? We don't know.
So
they did exchange a number of emails.
Without getting into the play-by-play of it now, because you got to do that on your own. We only have so much time. Just know this. There's a lot of tension seemingly between the Obama administration and the Clinton camp. John Podesta at that time was with the Obama camp. And you see a lot of them pointing fingers at each other, getting angry at each other, essentially saying, how could you allow her to get in this mess? And why does she refuse to apologize for it?
Right. So that's the White House being mad at the Hillary people. The Hillary people are mad at the president for going out on television and saying, yeah, I heard about it on television. So how come we have not seen those 18 email? Well, the conversation behind the scenes was, if we say executive privilege, that's going to smell like Watergate. So instead what they did was they said that the president would instead withhold the email to protect the president's ability to receive unvarnished advice and counsel, and they will be released in the proper form, which means 5 to 12 years after he leaves the office, which really doesn't help us right now.
Donald Trump keeps saying that this election is rigged, that the mainstream media is in the back pocket of Hillary Clinton. And there's a great example of that. Yesterday, she was on Univision, and her birthday's today. So instead of talking politics, instead of addressing questions about these email leaks, she's there on Univision. They roll out a birthday cake, and she's dancing and singing and dancing the salsa. Look at this.
Hillary Clinton. Oh, my God. Tequila of the
You've done it with vodka, but you have to do it with tequila.
Ay, Dios mío.
Wow, look at that.
Miren esto. Obviously, you don't have to drink it now.
I know, but look what happens. Look what happens if you drink too. Do you think we should try it?
I think so. I would love to see that. Esto es
All right, so it's a party.
I got to tell you, it looks like a fun show.
Looks like a lot of fun.
It looks like a fun show.
Looks like a lot of fun.
Like a fun show. Look, we heard, what was it, a couple of weeks ago when Hillary appeared on the Steve Harvey show, they gave her the questions ahead of time anyway. So, that certainly wasn't the venue for
She's
a
used to getting the
hard-hitting
questions in advance.
thing. And they celebrated her birthday. It did look like a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, see if anyone's going to ask her a serious question or she's going to sit down for a serious interview. She feels like she is ahead and gliding to a major victory.
You're right.
I'm not sure if she saw the post, she'd feel the same way.
All right.
I apologize. I forgot.
Ainsley started this hour by talking about a brand new poll that has got to be putting a smile on Donald Trump's face. It's a brand new poll out of the swing state of Florida. This is from Bloomberg. And as you can see, Donald Trump is leading Hillary Clinton. It's within the margin of error, but it's 45 to 43 to 43. It's interesting. Investors Business Daily, which last time was the most accurate, this morning has them tied in a four-way race at 41.
That's the one that called the Mitt Romney race to the T, to the decimal, right?
Right down to the decimal, exactly.
So it has them tied?
Yeah, let's think about what has taken place. We have these Veritas tapes that show that violence was perpetrated by DNC operatives at the Trump rallies. Then we have the WikiLeaks stuff that unwind the fact that behind the scenes maybe the president and Hillary Clinton were not being honest with us when it came to the emails. Who would have thought? And now we have more revelations about what they knew or didn't know going in. A lot of stuff is irregardless of what the Donald Trump campaign is doing. So he's trying to stay on message. And then all of a sudden this news drops on Monday that even the president admits Obamacare is having big problems. He calls it bumps in the road when it comes to how it's being produced and the subsidies that are necessary. Here is Donald Trump on the rising cost of Obamacare that could crash the entire program.
Everybody's going to be going up like that. They gave a number of 25% average. They know that's not true. They wanted to try and get out of, get in front. They know that's not true. It's much more. You're going to have 60, 70, 80, 90% increases in Obamacare. We're going to repeal it, and we're going to replace it, and we're going to get you great, great health care at a fraction of the cost.
All right, so everyone knows there are going to be rate hikes. We're hearing on average 25%. We just talked to the family down in Georgia. Theirs is more than doubled. How is this going to affect you? Well, we have a breakdown state by state. Look at this map. The folks in Arizona, in Oklahoma, and Tennessee, I can't read the writing. Steve, what'd you say?
Arizona is going to go up 116%. I know this is kind of hard to read. Meanwhile, in the swing state of Pennsylvania, your average is going to go up 33%. In Virginia, 22. In North Carolina, 24. In Wisconsin, 20. In Michigan, 16.
All right, so the darker the color, the worse for you and your family, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
So get this. One thing is abundantly clear, and it doesn't necessarily mean that one candidate is going to win and another candidate is going to lose, but the crowds are actually growing on the Trump side. As more outlets and newspapers say, oh, this is over, it seems as though no one told the American people because they don't think it's over. Yesterday, as he was pulling up in Tallahassee, there were thousands of people walking to an event that there was already sold out. Sean Spicer noted this, and he's the communications director with the RNC, and said this to Steve earlier.
About early voting.
In Ohio, where Obama did very, very well in key counties, the counties that he did well in, Franklin County, they're down 32%. Hamilton County, down 8%. Montgomery County, down 10%. Summit County, down 18%. And then you go to a state like Wisconsin, where you look at the top Republican counties, and this is good news not just for Donald Trump, but for Ron Johnson, is that Waukesha County up 28%, Washington County up 25%, Ozaukee County up 49% for Republicans returning early ballot. You go down to Florida, we have a 9% lead on early ballot, including a really big lead in the key I-4 corridor district. So in these key battleground states, not ignore, take the polls aside for a second, where people are actually voting, and I hate to tell this to the Dems, but that's actually what matters, is that Republicans are doing much better in early vote than the Democrats. They need to crush it in early vote. They're not doing it.
See, his point was, while the Democrats said over the weekend extraordinarily, we've seen eye-popping numbers in the early voting, the Democrats really need to energize their base. They think that's happening. But if Sean Spicer is right, and they've got a certain intensity on the Republican side where people who are identifying as Republicans are doing the early voting, that actually benefits Donald Trump, because in early voting, that tends to help Democrats. And day of voting, the people who are going to vote on November 8th traditionally show up in larger numbers as Republicans.
Wow. Well, it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Republican Party. It's an upheaval, and which wing of the GOP is going to win, Donald Trump or Paul Ryan? And there was this poll that NBC and SurveyMonkey did saying that more people trust Donald Trump than they do Paul Ryan.
They do.
63% trust Donald Trump and 34% trust Paul Ryan as far as leadership is concerned.
It looks like the House, by most circles outside Nancy Pelosi's house, will probably stay with Republicans, even though their lead will be less. Their advantage will be less. In the Senate, it's amazing. The crash of Obamacare is going to spell bad news and challenging times for one Senator Evan Bayh of Indiana and one Senator Russ Feingold, who lost to Senator Johnson last time around, the most liberal and the most conservative. I wonder if people are going to say, yeah, I know what you gave me last time. I want no part of it now.
Right. We've been talking about WikiLeaks. They just released this new batch. And, you know, with every batch, we're finding out more information. And we try to present these to you on a daily basis because they just keep going and going.
You're not going to see them on another channel.
No, you're not. There was an email from Uma Abedin, who, you know, is part of her campaign staff. And she says about Hillary, and this was from April 2015. Here it is. Read it on your screen. She says she's going to stick to notes a little closer this morning. Still not perfect in her head.
Okay, so she sent that out to the campaign staff, and so people are wondering, what does that mean, still not perfect in her head? Famously, she had a concussion. She has fallen a number of times. People are going, no. Is that proof that her health is not good? Maybe it means maybe in her head she's not good with the talking points, isn't comfortable with something. Nonetheless, you know, we had Ed Klein on in the last day or two, and he was talking about how just 3 weeks ago she and Robbie Mook were in the Oval Office, and she had a terrible coughing fit that would not stop. They called in the White House physician, and Mr. and Mrs. Obama very concerned about Hillary's health. Is this related to her health, or just she couldn't wrap her head around what they wanted to say talking point-wise? We don't know.
Well, that is a huge mystery. By the way, if you want to know what Hillary Clinton was doing when Game 1, because she's such a big Cubs fan, Game 1 of the Cubs Indians. Everyone quiet down, leave me alone, I got to watch the game, or go see Adele. Which one? How big a Cubs fan are you if you make your whole crew go to see Adele? You find a sports bar, a Bennigan's, not anymore, sorry, sadly it's out of business, a Fridays, whatever, and you go watch the game. You can't pretend to be a Cubs fan and go to see Adele.
Wait a minute, she pretended she was a Yankees fan when she was really a Cubs fan, so she could do pretty much anything.
Well, she pretended to like hot sauce in one
No, she had
circle,
hot sauce in her purse,
in one
according to our
circle.
guest yesterday.
But then yesterday she was on Univision saying that Mexican food was her favorite. And it was her birthday, so they rolled out a cake. They didn't talk about the email scandal. They rolled out a cake, and she did some salsa dancing.
Well, we are just 13 days away from America choosing our next president. And according to the polls, Hillary is in front a bit. Mrs. Clinton has a very slim lead in the very latest Investors Business Daily tracking poll, which last time was very accurate. While the latest CNN poll shows the former Secretary of State ahead by a comfortable margin. However, Donald Trump out on the trail telling his followers don't believe the poll numbers because the system rigged.
The system is corrupt, folks, and I've been saying it, it's rigged. I've been saying it for a long time. The system is rigged. WikiLeaks also shows how John Podesta rigged the polls by oversampling Democrats, a voter suppression technique. And that's happening to me all the time. It's called voter suppression because people will say, oh, gee, Trump's out. Folks, we're winning. We're winning. We're winning.
So does Trump have a point? Here to weigh in is Kelly Riddell, Deputy Opinion Editor at the Washington Times. Kelly, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Okay, what do you make of what he's saying? Is that voter suppression? Mainstream media saying, show's over, go home, don't vote.
Well, I think that there's a lot to that, and you really got to look into these polls to see where the biases are. With the ABC Washington Post poll, which was such a shocker in the fact that that Hillary Clinton was up 12 points, one of the things that they do when they screen out likely voters, they make sure that you voted before, that you're registered, that you know where your polling place is, that you've been following the race and can ask critical questions. This screens out a lot of Trump supporters, and the fact that a lot of Trump supporters are first-time voters. They haven't voted before. They're apolitical. The other thing this Washington Post ABC poll did was it oversampled the Democrats by 9 points over Republicans.
Sure.
Now, Democrats are usually oversampled by not that wide of a margin, and they also undersampled independents, which you know, late deciding voters usually flip towards a challenger, which would be
exactly
Donald Trump.
Right, Kelly. We got some examples. Reagan versus Carter in 1980. A week or so before, Carter was actually up by like 8, but then, of course, Ronald Reagan won. And then just in the last election cycle, out in Iowa, Joni Ernst versus Bill Braley, they were tied, and yet she won 52-43. So the polls, you know, it really depends on what the pollster is looking at to get the answer, right?
Exactly right. And so you really got to look at how many Republicans they're polling and how many independents they're polling, and then how they're screening likely voters. With the Investor Business Daily poll, which has Trump, you know, neck and neck or at advantage, how they screen voters is they say, are you going to vote? Are you planning on voting in this election cycle? And then you're brought into the poll. So that might be a more accurate way to see how things are going to come out this November than the extensive screening purposes that ABC does.
Ultimately, we will know 2 weeks from today, because that'll be the day after. All right, Kelly, thank you very much for joining us today from the Washington Times.
Thank you.